The rain was coming down in thin silver sheets, tapping against the cracked windows of a small, dimly lit apartment. Inside, Emma sat quietly at the edge of her bed, her hands trembling from exhaustion. She was only 26, but life had already weighed heavily on her. For months, she had been working as a caregiver, moving from one job to the next, doing everything she could to keep herself afloat. The bills stacked high, the rent overdue, and her body aching, but she never let her compassion fade. Emma believed caring for others was her purpose. When she received a call to look after an elderly woman named Margaret, she accepted immediately, not knowing this single decision would change her life forever. When Emma first arrived at Margaret's home, she was struck by the warmth of the little house. Though the furniture was old and the wallpaper peeling, there was something comforting about it. Margaret, frail and gentle, sat in a worn armchair by the window, her eyes reflecting both wisdom and loneliness. "You must be Emma," Margaret said, her voice thin but kind. "Yes," Emma smiled, kneeling beside her. "I'll be here to help you." What started as a job quickly grew into something deeper. Emma wasn't just helping Margaret with meals or medications, she was listening to her stories, laughing with her, and sometimes just sitting in silence, offering her presence. But challenges came swiftly. Margaret often fell ill, and Emma would stay up through the night, wiping her forehead and whispering comforting words. There were moments when Emma nearly broke, her bank account empty, her body drained, and her heart heavy with worry about her own uncertain future. Still, she refused to walk away. "I can't leave her," Emma confided once to her friend over the phone. "She has no one else." What Emma didn't know was that Margaret wasn't as alone as she thought. Margaret had a son, Daniel. A man who lived far away, consumed by his work as a CEO of a major company. He had built an empire, earning millions, but along the way, he had distanced himself from his mother. Guilt often pricked his conscience, yet his solution was always the same: send money, stay busy, avoid the pain. One evening, Daniel returned unexpectedly. He wanted to check in, unannounced, and reassure himself that his mother was being looked after. When he opened the door, he didn't expect the sight that greeted him. There was Emma, sitting on the floor beside his mother's chair, gently feeding her soup, her own clothes stained from the day's work. She spoke softly, with patience and warmth, as though Margaret were her own family. Daniel froze. He had seen caregivers before, but none like this. There was no pretense in Emma's care, it wasn't for money or recognition. It was genuine love. For a week, Daniel stayed quietly, watching. He noticed how Emma ignored her own hunger, saving her last piece of bread for his mother. How she held Margaret's hand when the old woman couldn't sleep. How she smiled even when her eyes showed the depth of her tiredness. One night, as Margaret finally drifted into peaceful rest, Daniel stepped into the kitchen where Emma was cleaning dishes. "You're different," he said, breaking the silence. Emma looked up, startled. "Oh, you must be Margaret's son. I didn't mean to overstep. I want to make sure she's cared for." Daniel studied her face. "Why? You don't even know her." Emma paused, then said quietly, "Because one day, we all become fragile. And when that day comes, I hope someone will care for me too." Her words sank into him, heavy with truth. The days that followed changed everything. Daniel began to reconnect with his mother, guided by Emma's example. He took time away from his towering office, choosing instead to sit with Margaret, listen to her stories, and remember the woman who had once sacrificed everything for him. Emma's challenges didn't vanish overnight. There were still bills waiting for her and worries about her own future. But she found something she hadn't expected: a sense of family, belonging, and respect. And then, one morning, Daniel asked to speak with her privately. His voice was softer than the man who once carried himself with the confidence of a CEO. "You've done more for my mother than I ever have," he admitted. "I can't change the past, but I can change now. I want to help you too. Emma shook her head gently. I didn't do this for anything in return. I know, Daniel said, his eyes sincere. And that's why I want to. You reminded me what matters. Over time, Emma's life transformed. With Daniel's support, she no longer had to choose between paying her rent and buying groceries. But more importantly, she gained something she had been missing all along: hope. Margaret's health stabilized, and for the first time in years, she felt surrounded by love. Daniel learned to be a son again. And Emma discovered that sometimes, by pouring kindness into others, life has a way of pouring it back into you. The story of Emma, Margaret, and Daniel wasn't just about money or status. It was about compassion, the kind that heals not only the one receiving it but also the one giving it. And for anyone listening, the message was clear: sometimes the smallest, most selfless acts of kindness can reach the deepest corners of a heart, even a heart hardened by success and distance.